Okay, gang, we're going to go over the last day lesson for the unit, and it's going to talk about the weightlifter's diet. And this last day is really the whole point of doing this nutrition unit within our class. It was to give everybody an idea of if by definition of a true, powerlifter, bodybuilder, strength trainer, what the diet would look like for an individual like that and why it's important. So to start off with, we really would not be considered true strength trainers or bodybuilders or power lifters within our class for a couple reasons. First, we don't do it as often as those individuals do. Second, we don't do it for as long as those individuals do each day. And third, we don't follow a strict dietary regimen to maximize muscle growth. So let's talk about muscle growth itself. Try and make this somewhat generic so that everybody can understand it relatively easily. So exercise in the form of lifting weights, which is what we do, damages the skeletal muscle in the body. It causes micro tears. And what the body is going to do is when the body is at rest, it's going to repair that muscle. That's done by fusing the broken muscle fibers together, and it will form new strands known as myofibrils. Through the process, the muscles are not only repaired, but they grow in size and in numbers, which is something we've talked about in class before, and that's called hypertrophy. Muscle growth happens when you are actually able to repair muscles more regularly than you're tearing them down, which is kind of why we talk about recovering from workouts so much. So in order for your muscles to grow, you really need to have more time for recovery than you do spending lifting the weights. We should all understand that protein is the most essential nutrient we're going to need in order to help with the repair process of the muscles. And just to reiterate, you cannot repair the muscles while you're working out. That has to happen during rest. So we mentioned protein, so we're going to talk a little bit more about it. In the previous lessons you guys have had, we know where protein's coming from. Meats, fish and seafood, eggs, dairy, nuts, and so forth. Understanding that protein's main job is to build and repair muscle tissue. It's more important for a weightlifter than it would be a cardio athlete, because cardio athletes really are not tearing down muscle as much as they're using up a lot of energy. Athletes, and when we say that, we're talking about bodybuilders, weightlifters, need about 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight each day, and each meal should include protein. So one of those athletes, 20 to 30% of their diet should come from protein. Now, carbohydrates. This is where a lot of you are probably going to roll your eyes, because most people now talk about doing low-carb diets. What we need to talk about is that carbohydrates are the main source of energy for the body. Carbohydrates are broken down by the body, and when that happens, the energy is stored as glycogen within the muscles. Now, as we start to do exercise, intense weightlifting would be an example, the body is drawing that glycogen out of the muscles and using that to perform the workout. And the more that your body is using, the glycogen reserves are going to go down. So that's when we actually start to get tired. So it's important that we replenish those carbohydrates with good forms of carbohydrates in order to keep those stores replenished. Your diet should have about 55 to 65% of it consisting of carbohydrates. The issue with cutting back on carbs in a very severe manner would be that if the body can't draw the glycogen from carbs, then the body's going to look for energy somewhere else. And that could either come from fat stores or, worse yet, protein itself. And if we've already talked about protein is what we're using to repair muscle, if we're taking that and using it for fuel, that means it can't do both at once. So that means we would not be building the muscles that we're looking to build. Finally, there's fats. And this is one of those controversial areas that everybody's saying fats are bad for you, you need to cut fats out. And that's true to an extent. We want to avoid saturated fats. Trans fats, that's kind of the yellow highlighted area here in the middle. Yeah, we want to avoid those, but there are good fats. And I'll show you in a minute where we can get a lot of those from. But you want to have about 15 to 25% of your diet consisting of fats. It helps with fuel, insulation, essential fatty acids, and building blocks for cell membranes. Your fat actually allows for a pathway for vitamins and nutrients to get in and around the body. So we just have to make sure that we're taking it in a healthy manner and not cutting it out completely. And you can see here some of the examples of good fats: almonds, coconut oil, avocado, olive oil, and so forth. These are all healthy versions of that, so it is kind of important. But we also see here's your 20 to 30% of protein in the examples of those. Carbs, good examples of those, and a lot of these are low in sugar. So this is kind of our way of looking at the diet of a weight trainer. If you have questions, please come up and talk to me. But remember, this is kind of a crash course. This is not by any means meant to be a very extensive lesson. Thanks for your attention, and pretty soon we'll have the test.